Welcome to The Explainer. So today we're tackling a really tough one, a painful paradox that sits right at the heart of the American identity. Is the incredible power of the United States a force for good in the world, or is it something fundamentally destructive? It's a debate that forces a pretty difficult reckoning, especially right now. And that brings us to author Shadi Hamid. He really gets to the core of this tension with this quote. In his recent work, he makes this compelling case that, we need American power. He argues that, yeah, there are mistakes, big ones, but there's something about the American project that's not just worth defending, but it's actually essential for the world. But here's where it gets really complicated. How do you hold both of those ideas in your head at the same time? A love for an American project that has also at the same time enabled just immense devastation. This tension really forces a choice. Is America a fundamentally failed project, or is it a deeply flawed one that can still find its way back? All right, let's get into it. First, let's really explore the argument for American power, the one that Shadi Hamid lays out. It's a perspective that's rooted in a pretty specific, and some would say pragmatic, view of how the world actually works. So the whole idea is based on what's called realism. And what that really means is, well, having good intentions just isn't enough. Moral ideals, universal values, they don't mean much if you don't have the muscle to back them up. In a world full of competing forces, someone is going to wield power, and the argument here is that it's a whole lot better if that someone is the United States. So you might be asking, why America? I mean, with all its flaws. Well, Hamid lays out a few key reasons. He says it has this unique, proven ability to self-correct. It's built on these universal ideals that anybody, anywhere, can get behind. It offers a promise that no matter who you are, you can become an American. And maybe most importantly, just look at the alternatives. Authoritarian powers like China or Russia, he argues they are far, far worse. And, this chart really drives that point home. Just look at this. The period of American dominance, basically from the end of World War II until now, has seen this incredible explosion in the number of democracies around the world. We're talking from just 8% to about half of all countries. For people who believe in American power, this is not a coincidence. This is Exhibit A. Okay, so that's a pretty compelling case, but it's not the whole story, not by a long shot. Let's pivot now and explore the counter-argument, which is a much darker and more skeptical take on the very nature of American power. It all comes down to this really fundamental question: what is America's DNA? On the one hand, you have the view that the country's original sin, slavery, the treatment of Native peoples, was a tragic flaw in an otherwise noble project, a flaw we're always trying to fix. But the other view? It says that sin wasn't the flaw. It was the point. That the whole thing was designed for dominance from the start, and all those lofty ideals were just a cover story. And that's exactly the view that Imam Tom, who hosts The Thinking Muslim, puts forward. He basically says, look, the problems we see with American power, they aren't bugs that we can just patch and fix. They're features. It's something baked into the system from day one. So from this point of view, you see a totally different picture. American power doesn't stop violence, it just pushes it somewhere else, through things like low-intensity conflicts or sanctions that cause these man-made famines. Any progress we've seen, like the civil rights movement, that wasn't a gift from the system. It was won with blood, sweat, and tears, fighting against that system. And when you look at who the U.S. supports abroad, well, it often looks less like promoting democracy and more like a mafia protection racket. So where does that leave us? You've got these two completely opposite diagnoses of American power, and it puts you, as a citizen, in a really tough spot, facing a critical choice about what to do about it. And what's so fascinating here is how this boils down to two totally different ways of trying to make a change. Path one is redemption. You believe the system can be fixed, so you work from the inside to try and steer the ship toward those noble ideals. Path two is mitigation. You believe the ship is fundamentally broken and headed in the wrong direction, so your job is to do everything you can to slow it down and limit the damage it causes. So, in the end, we're left with this massive, unresolved question. Is American power a tool that we can redeem, or is it a force that we can only hope to contain? Your answer to that doesn't just shape how you see the world, it shapes what you believe your role in it should be. It's a choice between fighting for the American project or fighting against it.